Hello? 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 It's all right. Okay, Irish. All right. Okay, good, good. All right, so good to see you guys. All right. So very excited for today because today we're going to be starting our second month actually of the Create Unicorn process. And actually we will continue with the you know continue with the Y Combinator materials. Okay. All right. So let's start by sharing some wins first. Would anyone would like to share anything that you have done in the last week that you feel it's a progress, a win of some sort, whether it's life, it's work, it's study, no? So anyone would like to share? You can raise your hand, your virtual hand. All right. Anyone would like to share?
I think we have one
Okay.
post in the chat. Avinish.
Okay. Avanish, would you
Yeah.
like to share? Oh, would you like to share your win from last week? Or maybe from yesterday? All right. So maybe Jane, you can share one.
Sure. I actually think yesterday was a great win. Yesterday, some of you might join the other call on the Pure Harvest, right? Originally, we were planning to do a pitch session. And then somehow those people who sign up for the pitch, most of them didn't show up. So then Shiyuan just pivoted quickly to actually propose three other new ideas. And then we get people to start thinking, had a breakout session. And then most people actually sign up to join one of the idea. So that was, I think it's a great win, right? We are here to help each other to grow, right? To create something meaningful.
Thanks, Jane, for sharing that. That's definitely a win. Okay. So yeah, it's basically things like these. And yeah, so anyone would like to share from this group? Any win you like to share? Basically, this is called positive focus, okay? Because oftentimes, our attention are in what's called the gap, things that are missing, that are not working, that we haven't done, but we forget oftentimes that there's a lot of great things you have done, you have accomplished, right? And it's actually important to go back periodically, to even on a daily basis to see what are the good things you have done. Okay, this is important for your mental health, for your energy level, for actually having momentum to continue in whatever task, work you're trying to do. And especially for startup and entrepreneurs, this is super important. You want to know ways to recharge your own batteries. Okay? Okay. All right. So could I have maybe one or two more shares of the wins? You can raise your hand or you can unmute. Okay. Meghana, are you able to share by voice? Is that Meghana? Okay. So, all right, Deepak Singh, are you able to share? Okay. Remember, this is really an interactive session. Okay. You gain the best, from the interaction. That's how you actually learn and grow. All right. So, right. Or you can also type. If you are unable to speak, okay, maybe you can put that next to your name, but you can type. Okay, that's another way. All right. All right. So let me share one win on my end, which is right now I'm actually at a school. Okay, it's called FEIA. It's sitting at the border between Canada and US. And part of it is for a sender, besides helping you guys, who might have, are starting from zero, right, to the one level. This school is already, of a certain scale. It has 200 students. It's a private school, so it's actually a company. And I think they are right now doing probably between $5 or $6 million, okay, in terms of annual revenue. Okay, at one point, they had a chance to maybe go much bigger. I'm here also to help them to go 10x. Okay, and one of the things we're doing is to get more students to engage into school, community activities. So I've just started to see if there are any volunteers who might be interested to turn trash from the kitchen into fertilizer, okay, by using some organic process. And by doing so, also can produce basically the fertilizer for organic farming, okay, at the school. So I already got a few volunteers from school staff, from one of the teachers, one member from the basketball team. They have great basketball teams here. So, that's kind of part of the effort of what's happening. And it's something I would love to see kick off, within this week. Okay. All right. So, again, reminder, okay, if you are late, past 10 past, then we will not let people in, okay? This is right now already at 7. Okay, so let's start with this week's material. If you haven't gotten the course, which all of you should, then we're on to week 5. And week 5, the YC topic is about planning an MVP. MVP stands for minimum viable product. So it's basically the idea that you want to build something, right? It can also be a service, okay, not necessarily like a product, like something you sell. It can also be something that you provide, okay, like such as if you are doing some kind of consulting work, if you are doing some kind of programming work, okay, that's also a service. Now, the MVP, by definition, it's something that's minimally doable. In other words, you give it to your, customer, and they can use it for some benefit, right? They get some value out of it, and they're willing to. Sorry, please. I think. Okay. All right. So what happens is, with the minimal valuable product, you should be able to provide some service to your client in exchange for their, money or their attention. Okay, sometimes what you want to get is simply, for example, their email, right? Their way to contact, build up a list, or to get them involved, engaged, or maybe fill out a survey for you, right? That is, they're paying by their attention. We know that today, actually, attention is also a valuable asset, okay? Because right now there's more and more things that's trying to gain our attention, right? Social media, advertisements, everything. Okay, so all right. So how do you actually build a minimum viable product? Okay. And one of the key things, and this is something YC emphasize a lot. Okay, if you really look at their materials, which by the way, I encourage you to do if you have additional time, besides our course, which is you want to spend 80% of your time on just 2 things. One is talk to the users to get feedback from the market. The other is build and refine your product. Okay, that's pretty much the 2 things you want to do 80% of your time. Other things, for example, doing fundraising, doing publicity, okay, getting into a nice big office. These are all not so important things. They are relatively compared to the talk to user, build your product. Those should occupy 80 or 90% of your time and attention. And how do you actually talk to users? Okay, the best way is to actually talk to them before you're actually building the product. Okay, this is a mistake a lot of the technical founders have. For example, you are a programmer, right? you have a great idea. You want to let students find the closest, the best restaurant in the area. Okay, you feel that a lot of times you don't really find good restaurants. You want to build an app for that. But oftentimes, that may be a valid thinking. Okay, it may be something good, but you want to actually find that from the clients, the customers you serve, and you want to validate that. Okay, so
Sir,
basically, yeah, there's a question.
yes, sir. I want to know
Okay,
what's your profit to serve our your knowledge.
what was the question?
What's your profit to serve your knowledge to us?
What is my what?
What's your profit?
Oh, what is my profit by selling the
Yes.
knowledge to you guys, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That's a great question. That's a great question. That is actually something in terms of the business model for Ascender. Okay. All right. So I can also explain that to you guys, which is right now, for example, you guys, although you're gaining these from my, very valuable knowledge almost for free, right? But why the reason what actually you're paying this with your attention and time. Does that make sense? That's when that's the attention and time thing. So what I'm trying to do here is to also build up, I guess, an understanding relation or trust with some of the, from my perspective, there's a lot of talents out there. Okay, talents are everywhere, but opportunities, especially in terms of learning, relevant entrepreneurial stuff, may not be as equally or as widely available. Okay, so my profit is to get to know potential funders, all right, from some of you. Okay, maybe not all of you, but some of you may be
Okay.
great funders. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
Okay. You
we
will support on our startup.
exactly. And at some point, if you are actually building up a team, building an MVP, right, have success, have traction, you are serious to become a true entrepreneur. Later stages, we also, besides our education arm, which is the Ascender Foundation, which is actually a US-based nonprofit. Okay, and this is where we're doing the education part for. However, we also have an investment arm, which is the Ascender, it's called Ascender Catalyst. It's actually an investment arm that's going to invest into potentially to some of the projects. All right. And so we will benefit from that. Does that make sense?
Okay, sir.
Okay. So that is our business model. Okay. So thanks for asking. Okay. So I have a chance to clarify. And this is also why we want to do the education as widely as possible. Okay, because this is my own personal belief coming from where I came from as a social entrepreneur, that there just may be young and ambitious people like myself, maybe 10 or even 20 years ago. I'm actually trying to discover the younger formal Shen Yuan, okay, in that sense. If I had access or knowledge like you guys had back when I started, 10 or 20 years ago, I would have, I think very likely already a billionaire by now. Okay, I'm pretty sure because the knowledge, the information, the know-how, the mindset is very, very powerful. Okay, so obviously what that also tells you is that I expect myself to become a billionaire within 20 years, preferably much less than that. Okay. All right. And all right, I hope that makes sense. All right. So how do you talk to users? Okay. Is you want to do obviously user interviews, right? You talk to people through interviews. However, don't ask feedback about whatever product or solution you have in mind. Okay, that's a bad way to have an interview because oftentimes users will say, okay, or your potential client will say, that looks nice, that's good to have. Yeah, why, that sounds good. Uh, However, um, obviously there are exceptions. Okay, for example, you are that user group. because what you really want to discover is their pain points. Okay, whatever problems they are currently experiencing. In other words, you want to talk more about the problem, okay, that they are having. And the bigger the problem, the more painful, the more urgent, the better. Because that means if you actually have a solution that you can solve for them, then they will, well, appreciate a lot, they will adopt, likely use, and they will also very likely to pay for it. All right. So, I mean, these are some crucial, ideas. You want to talk about and discover about their problem and their pain points. All right. And one example for this is you might want to just, and even when you do have a solution, let's say you have a software system, right? Or you have a product, you want to actually just give it to them and let them use it and observe how they are using your product without telling them how to use it. Okay, because that would be one great way for you to discover whether your product can really is easily usable, understandable by them, okay, and they can actually, use it. All right. So these are some, I guess, some of the things you want to take note. Now, there is something called the product development cycles, okay, which is back in the days when I was doing my software company, Immunology. That's my first company. We were building games, and in the game industry, there's a well-known process. For those of you who may have a programming background, you might have heard of the term agile development or Scrum process. Okay, so it's the idea that you shrink the development cycle into 2 to 4 weeks time. Okay, and then doing iterations. So you can have a ready version for your users by the end of 2 weeks. Okay, every 2 to 4 weeks. That's called the Scrum process. And so oftentimes, if you're developing whatever product, okay, whether it's, let's say we're building a organic tea, right? Okay, that's actually what we're trying to look at for Pure Harvest now. You also want to basically do things within some cycles, okay, within some iterations. And the idea is that at the end of each cycle, you have something to show for your users or clients that they can use. So they can, you can get their feedback as to whether this is good or whether some improvement, could be wanted. Now, you want to set a time limit for this. And I think from many of the people with experience, 2 weeks may be ideal. Okay, 1 or 2 weeks. You don't want this to be too long. You don't want that to be a multi-month deliverable. Because what happens is there's usually a gap between the idea person, okay, and the people who are actually doing it. And if you actually have a longer period, the gap will increase with time, okay? So you actually want to make sure the cycle time is small, such as 2 weeks. And one of the stories in the YC story is that this company, before they actually adopted a good methodology, they actually had a very slow progress towards hitting milestones and creating deliverables. But then what they adopt is, okay, they set a 2-week cycle time. Okay, so every 2 weeks, they have to deliver something to their users. And then they also decide a clearly defined metric to improve for each cycle. For example, usually it's whether, it can be a functionality, okay, a new function. It can be, let's say, growth in a user size. We want to grow our user clients by a certain number or a certain percentage, or retention. Okay, you want to keep the users from coming or ask them to repurchase, right? So it's either growth, retention, or new feature. But pick one goal for each cycle. And then what they do is they would list out all the things, the tasks to do, or quote unquote features. Okay. Now you can think of this in your own context as well. Even if you are, you may be a student or you're just starting, you can also think about what kind of things you want to offer, right, to your clients. And then also rate the difficulty of whether this is hard to do, easy to do or maybe medium. And then what you want to do is to prioritize all the items, according to the benefits and how difficult it is to actually do it, to build and create that. So then you can prioritize all the tasks or all the potential to-dos into 3 categories: the must-do, the good-to-do, and the nice-to-have. Okay, so in other words, the must-do is something you must complete within these 2 weeks. The good-to-do is something, that is obviously you want to hit that mark. So the must-do is probably like the most important 20%. The good-to-do is the, the 70, 80%. And then the nice-to-have is if you still have time or you want to shoot for 90% of completion or quality, then you do that, right? And then you start to execute, okay? So this is how they have discovered the best approach. And every cycle you want to reevaluate. And the way they did the reevaluate is they simply erase the whiteboard, okay? This team simply erased the whole whiteboard and then just start over again. And I think that's a great, great approach to have, because sometimes you would have what's called the feature creep, meaning that you put the things that's not finished from this cycle, you simply move that to the next cycle. But every time you start to have more and more things to do, your to-do list grows longer and longer, right? We might have all of these experiences. So you can think of this applying to your personal life as well, these cycle time ideas. You probably have some tasks to do, some things to improve. But if you just keep the list growing longer and longer, right, that actually makes you even want to procrastinate or delay even more, and you have less momentum. But maybe a better way is just erase everything, okay, and start anew every cycle, let's say every 2 weeks. And you re-ask your question, what are the things I want to see by the end of the cycle? And then use that to backtrack, right, to list out all the items, the features I want to create, and then just redo this. So every time you have a new fresh list, and you can also reevaluate what's the most important things at hand. All right. Okay, so these are some of the, I think, the main points about building up your MVP. And I think next week we will talk about launching. Okay, but this is just about how to create or build your MVP. You want to, again, I think in summary, you want to talk to your users and refine your product or service. You want to do this within cycles. Okay, and within each cycle, you want to prioritize your tasks in terms of the benefit and also the difficulty of actually executing. And then sort through priority and then execute. And every time you want to start anew. All right. So for today's question, okay, think of something, a project, your own project or something, a product or something you are working now. And the first question is, do you regularly talk to your users? Okay, and what feedback has you gotten that surprised you the most? All right, so for this question, I'll give everyone just 1 minute, okay? 1 minute to think about this and write down your answers. All right, so do you regularly talk to your users, and what feedback surprised you the most? All right, 1 minute, let's start. Okay, 10 more seconds. Okay, it doesn't have to be complicated, just whatever one or two things that came to your mind, just write it down. Okay, but do remember these are good questions to ask yourself from time to time. Now, the second question is, what are the main difficulties or blockers currently that's in the project you are currently working on? Okay, and are you able to launch or relaunch it next week? Okay, in other words, what's the biggest block right now to you? All right, think about that. Again, 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute in terms of what's the biggest main difficulty or blockers in your project, and how can you launch your product or relaunch it next week? All right, let's start. 1 minute. All right, 10 more seconds. Okay, all right. So let's move to this week's mindset, 10x mindset materials. Okay, there's actually a important concept when you want to grow 10x, which is we started by we often think, I think this is same for for many people, that we think the past determines the present, right? The present determines the future. In other words, we are the creation of our past. And our future is something that is going along some trajectory that's proceeding to the future. However, if you really want to grow 10x, but that kind of thinking or approach will only get you a quote unquote 2x growth. Okay, because the growth curve is linear from your past to the present to the future. If you really want to grow 10x, right, a lot bigger, better than maybe your current trajectory, what you want to do is you actually want to imagine a bigger, brighter future first. All right. So you actually started from the future. You don't start from the present. You actually start from the future, which is something that you imagine. And you don't have to worry about how to actually go or achieve there, because the pathway that's going to achieve that 10x goal or the much better future may not be something you currently have, own, or know. You're going to discover that during this process of 10x trajectory. So how you want to do is you want to start by actually, there are 3 phases to this: seeing, feeling, and knowing. Okay, and these are some, I think, key concepts, because what seeing means is you simply, so maybe some of you are into personal growth, and you might have heard of people talking about visualization. Okay, visualization actually is a powerful tool, because when you can start to see or visualize a potential future, for example, I'll give myself as an example, and this is something that in a way it's already happening. Okay, I didn't quite realize when I was doing this. My ideal lifestyle, okay, is to be able to travel and live around the world at different places, because one of my goal, uh, a 20-year goal, is to build 1,000 eco villages around the world globally. So to do that, that actually require a traveling lifestyle, right? To go around the world, go around the globe. But I don't want to just be a superficial, traveler, just for sightseeing. I actually want to live at a place for, let's say, 1 to 3 months of time and really get to know the local life, how people are living here, what they're doing, right? And what concerns them. What's an ordinary day like? What do people do on weekends? That's the kind of life I think I would enjoy and I want to do. And surprisingly, what happened is this is already happening right now. Okay, that used to be something I wanted to do 20 years later after retirement. But for example, like this year, I'm in Canada. I decided to move from Taiwan to Canada. And already I will be staying at this place near the Canadian-US border, okay, near Buffalo. It's called, it's near Niagara Falls. I'll be here for 3 months. I'll be at another place, Prince Edward Island, for a couple of months. So in a sense, this is already happening, okay, for me. But it did not, it was just a vision, right? It was just an idea, maybe a few years ago or a couple of years ago. Okay, so I think this is the power of visualization. When you start to imagine things, right? Start to seeing things. That's the first step. And the next step is you want to feel how you're seeing this. Okay, not just see the picture, how you're living, but you can also feel what it's like when you're actually living that life or having that thing or achieving that. Start to feel that. And the reason is that when you're feeling something, when we have a deep sense of whether it's gratitude or, it's something that you're feeling thankful or happy about, that connects you to your why. Okay, so the first stage is seeing, the next stage is feeling. And the third stage, this is the best, this is the part when it's called knowing. It's about, this hasn't happened yet, but you know that it's going to happen. I think we all have experiences like this, right? For example, you are walking into an exam, but you know, because you have prepared so well, you know that you're going to ace the exam, even though it hasn't happened yet, but you know for sure, right? You will do a good job, right? That's the kind of the knowing. And how you can actually get to the knowing stage, one key is you want to raise up your minimum standard, okay, which is also called your floor. When your floor is being risen up, okay, so you basically no longer tolerate certain things. You say no to things that are below your floor. So I'll give an example. Recently, for me, my floor has been to sleep earlier, before 10 p.m., okay? And my goal right now actually is to sleep before 9 p.m. And when I'm raising my floor like that, okay, I know for sure that I will be very creative in the early morning when I wake up at 5 or at 4. So because of that confidence, certain things I'm doing now, I also know that I will be able to execute them. Okay, even though they haven't happened yet, but I know that they will be done because I will have plenty of time in the morning to actually think and do certain things to make it happen. All right. So once you raise your minimum standard, that's when you start to come into a knowing stage. All right. So see, feel, and know. Okay. So this is some, I think, interesting exercise. You can start to adopt into your life, right? Into practice. All right. And there's one more concept called the power move. Okay. So power move is something that once you have a very clear, better future, then there are certain decisions or actions, right, you can do that may not take you too much time. Okay, it could be simply, let's say, writing an email or calling a friend, right, or moving to a different city, right, or maybe accepting a job offer, right. It can be a very simple act. However, it might have very huge consequence for you in the future. All right, it's called the power move. For example, like you guys if you decide to continue, to on this program and to finish this, that could be a decision, right? That's a very simple decision. But if you really decide to continue until the end of June and attend every week, I'm sure that's going to change your life in some way. All right. This is something I know for sure. And because you will simply learn a lot of important concepts and mindset that's going to change your behavior and your life trajectory. All right. So, I mean, that could be like a power move. And for me, like moving to Canada from Taiwan, that's a power move. And I think one of the power move I can make, which I haven't, okay, so this is again, I guess, a challenge for me, is to sign up for Strategic Coach third year, okay, the 10X program. I'm sharing this very honestly with you guys. It's something I have planned for, but I do have some other financial obligation I might want to meet, and it's going to cost $15,000 to join the program, okay, to go to the third year, which is, I mean, it's something I can afford, but it's still going to take a large chunk from the amount of liquid cash I can utilize, right, for other purpose. So this is something, if I do this, that would be a huge power move for me. But in some sense, uh, you know, this could be in alignment with my future self because I did have the vision or the vision or the wish to become a strategic coach. Actually has 3 levels. That's the coaching program from Dan Sullivan, right? The first level is called Signature. So you actually pay 10,000 US dollar just to attend, okay? And you have to be invited. Your annual income has to exceed 200K or company 300K. I mean, that's kind of the requirement that's required. So the first is the signature level. The second is called 10X, okay, to create self-multiplying company. And the third is called Free Zone. Now you have to go through 2 years of signature before you can go to 10X. And you have to, I think, attend at least 1 year of 10X in order to go to the free zone level. And there's quite a, really high level entrepreneurs at the free zone level, and it's coached directly by Dan Sullivan. So I had the idea of wanting to be at the free zone level, coached directly by Dan Sullivan in 3 years. That was 2 years ago, okay, when I started, or as quickly as possible. So obviously going to the 10X program would be direct alignment to that future self. Okay, so I'm just sharing very honestly. You guys will know next week if I have made the power move or not. Okay, but this is something, well, that's just an example of a power move. All right, okay, so let me, I guess, share the okay, questions now. So the next question or the third question is, what is your 10X vision, right? No more than 3 years and no more than 3 goals. Okay, just I'll give you guys maybe a bit more time, 90 seconds to write down this. You want to have a clear vision of your future self, your 10X future self, so that you can work towards that. Okay, remember, 10X process starts not from the present, but actually from the future. And then you backtrack. What should you do right now that makes the most sense to move forward? All right. So no more than 3 years and no more than 3 goals. What's your 10X vision? All right. So let's start. 90 seconds. All right, 10 more seconds. Oh, sorry, I gave you 90, right? So it should be 30 more seconds. All right, 10 more seconds. Okay, time's up. All right, the next question is this. If you start from a future perspective, write down 3 power moves that will move you towards your, impossible goals or your 3-year vision. Okay, that's going to help move you towards that, but will make you uncomfortable. Just like for me, if I were to sign up for Strategic Coach 10X program tomorrow, that would make me uncomfortable. But I know it's going to be a power move. All right, so what are your 3 power moves that will move you, but that will make you uncomfortable? Just write down 3 of them. All right, so for this, 60 seconds. All right, let's start. All right, 10 more seconds. All right, okay. So, let's start from anyone would like to share? And you can share your answers, okay? But you can also, any insights you have gained from answering the questions. And also, you can maybe ask questions, all right? Especially related to your current situation or maybe your current challenges. All right, so anyone would like to share first? Raise your hand. Okay, I see you guys are all shy. But there's really no need to be shy, right? You want to grow, right? It's the reason why you're here. You want to learn and you want to grow and you want to have a much bigger future, right? So Yop, Y-U-G, Yop, is that you? Yop, can you perhaps share? Are you able to speak? Yop? Okay, then how about Avish? Avish? Would you like to share your answers? Or you can share maybe one of them. Avish? Okay. How about Shiny? Shiny? Hello? Shiny? Okay, so Jing, I mean, you can hear me? I mean, my voice is it all right?
Can hear you.
Okay, okay. All right, okay. So Jane, would you like to share yours?
The 3x, sorry, the 10x or the 3 power moves?
Any one of the questions, or you like to share all of them, that's also fine.
Okay,
Whatever you like to share in terms of the questions, and also any insights, right? If you have gained any insights while answering these questions, you can also share them, or questions, yeah.
okay. All right, so let me answer all 3 questions. Okay, so the
Okay.
first one is the 10x, second one is the 3 power moves, and the third
Mhm.
is the insight, just for everybody's clarity. Okay, so for the 10x for me, in 3 years, 3 goals. I want to have the freedom, the total freedom, freedom of time, finance, relationship, and purpose. That's also saying in one of the book. Okay? And second thing is to make the Pure Harvest a unicorn. And third is like Shen Yuan, I enjoy that a different cultural experience. I'm a global citizen, already spent half my life around the world. So I enjoy this 1 to 2 new growth experience annually. I did something different during COVID, so I was immersive in the Spanish-speaking culture to be a trilingual. I'm on the way to be that. So the 3 power moves to that 3 goals are for the first one, right? I think among the freedom, the toughest for me is about that about the money. So I want to purposefully ask to be paid or for exchange every time I offer something. So that's and then second is for the Pure Harvest is to really make the commitment and alignment with the team and take those bold actions. Right? For example, we talked yesterday about reaching out to airline for the tea. Right? I don't know anybody directly in airline, but I have some indirect friend. I'm going to ask. Right? It doesn't hurt. What I'm going to lose? No? Yeah, I don't have it now, right? So the third thing is about this experience, right? So I started to explore different countries, not confirmed yet, but let's see. Like one of the friend, I know her for a while, and in Ghana, she's doing amazing work for the education there, and she couldn't pay me, but she said she may be able to help me get a teaching role in there, the university. I was like, great. That may, whether it will work out, I don't know, but that's doesn't hurt to ask. So back to that insight, right? I think by publicly talk about this is a commitment, right? So then later on, you could ask me, how did I do without those 3 goals, right? And I also feel whether you believe 10x or not, I do. I mean, you definitely will achieve more than 2x, more than what you originally thought. Right? Even for me, a quick example is since April, I started to interview the social entrepreneurs, not just any social entrepreneur. They are already achieving a unicorn status. They either have 100 million annual revenue, or they have positively impact over 1 million lives. And I already interviewed a couple. I'm putting a series I posted on LinkedIn if you read that. So there will be a total of 6 stories about them. And in the beginning, to get the first 2, it took me over a month, just to contact, coordinate, etc. And now I was like, I don't have time to do another like a whole series like this kind of speed. So I said, okay, I cannot do. Originally, my goal was each doing weekly for the next 3 months, right? Minimum 10. But then I said, like, okay, I don't have time to do this in such speed. So I said, okay, I'm going to reach out to 50, doing 10 in a week. I didn't make 10, but through the process, I actually get 5. So compared to, I mean, 1 is through the video. So it's, let's say 4, right? 4 compared to 2, 1 week versus 1 month, right? You are looking at 4 to 6 times of the increase, even though it's not a 10x, but it's much faster than before. So just example.
All right, great. Thanks, Jane, for sharing your 10x experience. That's a very solid, real example, right? You aim higher, right? So you actually achieve bigger and more than your original goal, right? I think that's
Absolutely.
all right.
I encourage
Okay.
everybody to try. I didn't believe myself either, right? But just do it, right? Because that
Right.
will push you to think different, do different,
Exactly. That's
and meet
exactly
different
what I mean.
people, right?
Yeah, right. All right. So anyone would like to feedback or ask questions to Jane? Because this is what's called a mastermind. Okay, and I'd like you guys to also understand and learn this process as well, which is our brains are actually super powerful. If you have at least two people in a conversation and you have the same goal, the same value, and you like to support each other, then actually a third brain will be created. Your 1 + 1 is bigger than three. Okay, bigger than two, obviously. So this is what's called a mastermind session. Okay, so it's not just I'm sharing or I'm quote unquote teaching. I'm actually also a participant and learning from you guys. So which is why I encourage you to speak, all right, and to participate, because that way we all benefit. We can all learn from each other and grow collectively as a bigger and better entity. All right, does that make sense? Okay, so anyone would like to share any feedback or questions to Jane? You can also type if if speaking is not a thing. Okay, so any feedback? You can unmute or questions. All right, okay, so if not, then for me, okay, I do have one is a question and the other is a feedback. Okay. The question is, what's your biggest fear in terms of executing some of the power move? What do you think?
I think I answered that earlier, right? It's about the money, facing the money. Not it's facing like I feel I don't have enough. I should rephrase. I feel I don't make money. I don't make enough money. I currently certainly don't, because I make that move not to go for another job, right? So yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. So well, that's great. Okay, because oftentimes the reason why I ask is oftentimes our fears are hidden. They are hidden not under the sunlight, but it's actually impacting our behaviors, whether consciously or unconsciously. However, once that's been moved into the spotlight, right, and we start to can see it directly, then it can actually be addressed and improved, right? So for example, like my relation with money also hasn't been so great. But I think especially this quarter, last month, I've been doing a lot of healing with my relation with money. Okay. So obviously,
yeah, I would like to hear that, right? So I think really, I think some people have, it may not be for this session, but I think it's just for everybody's opportunity, right? I want to share is, I think the book also talk about the need and want, right? In the gain and in the gap, right? We tend to, look, I don't think my mind, I don't need money, but I want freedom. I want to not to think about that anymore. Right, whatever that number to you, anybody is I want to feel that confidence. I don't need to work, but I truly want to do what I want to do for the rest of my life. Yeah. And I can help more people to do what they want to do. Yeah.
Right. Okay, excellent. So I mean, yeah, want freedom. So I guess my feedback is that it's the idea, be your future self now. Okay, it's actually the title of one of Dr. Ben Hardy's book. Okay, I don't know if you read that. If not, I also recommend. But the idea is that you can actually already become your future self, even for, let's say, 5 or 10 minutes a day. But the thing I'm suggesting you, if you are already thinking about living in different countries, right? Like you talk about in Ghana, right? You have a friend there. Then maybe that's a move you can do today, right? And
not today. I need to do that for different reason, right? I know for later of the year, yes, but not today.
Right.
So I
Yeah,
think this one is not a very difficult one, to be honest, right? There will be
okay.
other country I could consider, but I want to combine that with a meaningful experience because I want to help her
Mhm.
expand her education to 4 other countries. That's the reason why I want to
Excellent.
be there. Not that I'm not there
Excellent.
as a tourist.
Right, right. Excellent, excellent. Okay. So that, I mean, that's great. I guess I'm just recommending that if going different places is already your ideal, right, lifestyle in the future, you might as well try it now, right? Okay. Something to think about.
That
Okay,
is true.
something to think about.
Yes.
Something to think
Thank you.
about. You don't have to stay or stuck in Boston, right?
That's true. That's true.
And I mean, already I'm in a different place. I'm in Canada, and it's already changing how I'm thinking, how I'm acting, right? How I'm living. So, yeah, this is something I would encourage you all to
Absolutely. You're doing
take,
amazingly
right? Take a
to
bold
achieve your
move
goal. Mhm.
towards your a power move, right? Take a, and if it's too much, you can make small moves, right? So start small. But power moves are powerful, right? It's surprising how easy it is to actually execute a power move. For example, for me to come to Canada, it was really just 2 actions. Talk with my family to get their support, and then book the ticket. That's how I did, which probably in all did not consume more than 1 hour of my time. All right, but you guys can see, right? Right now I'm in Canada for 6 months. It's going to impact a lot my life trajectory, right? For the next 6 months or even beyond that. However, it took me only less than 1 hour from having the idea to getting everything arranged, right? That's the kind of power move. You want to start to pay attention towards your 10x goal or 10x future self. All right?
Yeah, one thing I want to add what Xunyun just said, right? Whatever, however many goal, right? Ideally no more than 3, right? You write for yourself is start with 1, whichever one, right? That feel most to your heart or most scary or you feel most easy, however that definition is, right? Start doing that. And then you will start to feel right more comfortable, happier, and then maybe you will do the second one and you do the third one versus
Right,
all
right,
3 are so hard. I'm
right,
not
right.
doing anything, right? Yeah.
James right. James right. It's a very kind of contradictory concept, but it's very real. We want to have very high vision, high goals, but we also want to make the next step very, very low. All right. This is a powerful concept. And I like to share how Dan Sullivan plans. Okay. Dan Sullivan is 81 years old. You know, he's very wise. He's coached over 20,000 entrepreneurs, you know, the organization. He only plans for 2 time duration. One is 25 years. What he would like to still be doing, achieve in 25 years. Right now for him is to grow strategic coach to 10,000 members from the 2,500 now. So 4x that. And also have the collective impact jump from 15 billion to 15 trillion. All right. That's what he would like to see by 2044. So that's his 25-year vision, right? But then he only plans for the next quarter. Then he only have quarterly goals. Obviously, he has a schedule planned out for the whole year. He actually plans all his free days 1 year in advance. Okay, so like his full schedule is fully booked for the entire year. All right, but essentially his I mean in terms of free days, focus days, and buffer days. This is the concept you will learn also later. Okay, this is the time management part for entrepreneurs. But what happens is he only focuses on his quarterly goals. All right. Okay. So I think we can maybe wrap up for this session, which is let's do a spend 1 minute. I have typed this in the chat. Okay. Spend 1 minute to do a feedback. Okay. What's your biggest takeaway from today, and also your next action? All right. So let's spend 1 minute on this. Biggest takeaway and one action. All right. The link is in the chat room. All right, 10 more seconds. Okay, all right. So we'd like to invite maybe a share of the win. Okay. Sorry, today's learning, the takeaway and action. Okay, so YP, would you like to share what's your biggest takeaway and action? Yok? Okay, so how about Avish? Avish? Would you like to share what's your biggest takeaway and your next action? All right, so you guys are all very kind. Okay, so Jane, would you like to share yours? Hello, Jane?
Sorry,
Yeah, go
the
ahead, go ahead.
muted
Yeah.
button is behind my
Oh, okay.
feedback.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I keep talking, and then I will learn the most in this session. So everybody take the opportunity, right, to learn to express yourself. But for me, the biggest learning is in this week's course is about the MVP, right? People would typically think about MVP as the minimum viable product from the product perspective. But actually, YC is talking about getting your actual user. I think that's very powerful. Second, so for my action, as I just shared with my 10x goals, right? So it's really about taking those 3 power moves, perhaps different time toward each of them. That's my commitment.
All right. Okay, congrats.
Thank you.
Jane is absolutely right. When you start to share things and engage, you will learn and gain the most. That is very, very true. All right, so highly encourage you guys can also participate, whenever you can. All right. This is a really rare opportunity, I have to say. If you understand fully the full scope of what we're sharing and teaching here, then you'll be amazed, okay, at what this can actually do to your life and your career and your trajectory. All right. Okay,
Yeah,
so
and one thing I want to just
yeah,
add
okay.
here, right, just to wrap up, right? I think Sun Yun mentioned that earlier. His private coaching will cost you $500 per hour, and you guys all get it for free, plus each other, right? I think the mastermind is very powerful because of the interaction, right? 1 plus 1. Remember which one or who that is, right? 1 plus 1 plus 1 is always bigger than 3.
Right.
Take that
It's true.
opportunity, right?
Yeah,
Whether you're
Jane,
more financially or whether you're emotionally, I think it's a game by participating and learning.
Right. Jane is speaking something real, all right? I do charge $500 per hour to speak with me on a private one-to-one. Okay. This is what I'm actually charging now for, some of my collaborator and clients to do coaching calls. All right. So yeah. So yeah, do use your time and attention well. I think that's the final words for today. All right. Okay. So with that, that's for this week, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Okay. And meanwhile, look forward to 10x opportunities. Okay. That's in direct alignment with your 10x future self and your vision. All right. Because those opportunities do exist. 10x is a filter. It helps you to clarify your thinking and action. All right. So take care. All right. See you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.